Today, I have the honor of having some of my past clients as guests because I think it's very powerful for people to hear others' experiences, especially when it comes to therapy and what they've gleaned from therapy, but more so about what one human being goes through, many others are all also going through. I always say that, you think you're alone. Well, chances are that the person two floors above you and two doors down the hallway is also going through the same thing. And I really, really appreciate these women for stepping up and doing this work. I'm hoping it was somewhat therapeutic for them as well. And they want to help other women. Welcome to I Think I Can podcast. My name is Luella Young. I am a woman who believes that we, like wine, get better with age. Age brings us wisdom, intuition, and a level of sophistication that is beyond the reach of youth. I am here to tell you that living a luxuriously rich and fulfilling life is in your reach. I Think I Can podcast will teach you to think differently in order to get different results. Allow me to show you how to do life effortlessly. This podcast is for the woman who is tired of playing by the rules of society, community, religion, parents, and partners. I Think I Can is all about becoming brave, authentic, purposeful, and strong. Listen weekly and you will find yourself living a life you could have only once dreamed of. Thoughts drive our physiology, so channel your thoughts with me into a life truly worth living. Enjoy the show. Welcome back to I Think I Can podcast. And today, I have the honor of having some of my past clients as guests. And of course, all the names are pseudonames. None of their names are real. And I might be doing more of these because I think it's very powerful for people to hear others' experiences, especially when it comes to therapy and what they've gleaned from therapy, but more so about what one human being goes through, many others are all also going through. I always say that, you think you're alone. Well, chances are that the person two floors above you and two doors down the hallway is also going through the same thing. So I want to just start off by thanking these women and honoring them and just making note that it's an absolute privilege to work with women as brave as these women are. And I think you'll understand what I mean as you listen to their stories. One thing that I want to note is that I think you'll see a lot of commonality between these women, a common theme. At least I did when I was listening to them speaking. And, that is one of ignoring the red flags. And we all say that, hindsight 2020, looking back. But you can see how I think the root cause of not following their gut instinct in the moment would be that of giving their partner another chance, or like what I'm talking about here is just not honoring your values and not staying true to what you feel as crossing the line, or your boundaries as a person and what you value. It always comes down to that. It always does. Like every argument, every conflict, it's almost always related to that. So, yeah, they cross your boundary, but you have to think about the excuses you make when that happens. Oh, I'll just give them another chance, or this is a one-time thing. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. They're really tired, or they've been working really hard, or I'm sure tomorrow will be better. They're very stressed out right now. I mean, I hear these excuses over and over, and I'm sure you've used them as well. And it's really important to pay attention to these excuses that you're making, because one excuse will run into another excuse, will run into another excuse. And before you know it, you don't even realize that they are crossing a boundary, something that was hugely important to you when you were, early into the relationship is now just, more the norm. It just becomes a habit and you become exhausted and you don't want conflict anymore. All you want is peace. You want peace in the house. I hear this over and over and over from women. I just want peace. I don't want arguing anymore. I don't want the children to see this. I just it's not right. I just need quiet in the house. And that's all you do is like you just put out fires. And then it's 10 years later, 15 years later. And another thing that you're going to hear as a common theme here is that many women, well, a couple of them did leave when the children were very young. Like Anne, for example, she left, I think, when her child was 2 or something like that. Susan's children were probably around 8 and 5, I'm thinking, perhaps a little bit older than that. And then Sarah's were, I'm going to say, unfortunately, in more of the teenage years. And that's when it gets a little bit crazy, to be honest with you, because when you're separating, when your children are teenagers, the teenagers are going through their own, like just being a teenager is rough. So they don't know who to side for, how to handle this. It's very, very difficult for them. I'm not saying don't do it because they're teenagers, but I'm just saying if you're thinking about separating from a toxic relationship, um, do it if you can sooner than later when your children are young. And you'll see why. There's other reasons why, and you'll hear it in these women's stories. But yeah, I think like I said, you're gonna see a lot of common themes in these stories. Another thing that was common was their partners were not willing to either come to therapy or stick to therapy. And as soon as I sort of, indicated in some way that their partners were not being fair to them, and it was time to maybe step in front of a mirror. I was basically telling the man, you need to look at your actions here. And what you're doing is very, very emotional. Like it's abusive, emotional abusive. They ran away. They not only ran away, but some of them even, I'm not going to say threaten's a strong word, but like not threatening me, but basically told me to like butt out. And yeah, I mean, that's a real eye opener, isn't it? So this was all very common. as well. These men were not willing to look at themselves, not willing to take any responsibility for where they went wrong. Well, their partners, that's all they've been doing, looking at themselves, reflecting on themselves and thinking, what am I doing wrong? What could I do better? Um, some of them are very determined to keep the relationship, and because of values, because of vows, because of commitments. But I think more because they just believed in the sacrament, yeah, of marriage, but of love and making a commitment to somebody and but put the children first, etc. But you're gonna hear like how controlling their partners were. Well, two out of the three, the men were very, very controlling, very controlling. And I want you to realize what, emotional trauma is I equate it to, there's many ways that I describe it, but it's almost like a chronic pain, like slash torture that you're going through. But it's so subtle. It's almost like a drip on your forehead, every 2 seconds. Which would mean it wouldn't allow you to go to sleep. It's and you wouldn't notice it if it was a drip once every hour, 2 hours. Like, think about it. If you walk outside and it's drizzling or something, or there's a drip of water falling from a tree, I mean, you're not going to hardly notice that a drop of water hit your forehead. But it's with emotional trauma, it's every minute. It's, if not even every second. And you almost become numb to it. But at the same time, it's torture. It's absolute torture. So, on that happy note, no, just kidding. Let's dive into it, hey? No, it's nothing to laugh about, but I think it's something that needs to be shared. And I really, really appreciate these women for stepping up and doing this work. I'm hoping it was they all said it was somewhat therapeutic for them as well, and they want to help other women. So with that, let's begin. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Today I have Susan with me, and we're going to talk a little bit about toxic relationships and some of the red flags that we ignore when we're in these relationships. And the main purpose of having my clients join me today is just to let any of you know out there, men or women, that sometimes it's really difficult to see your way out of these relationships, but there is definitely light at the end of the tunnel. And the best thing you can do for yourself is to not ignore these signs that you're getting, these gut instincts, these, using your intuition and honoring yourself. And so, Susan, what was the number one? Well, there's probably so many red flags, but one characteristic about your ex that you wish you would have paid more attention to a long time ago?
Yeah. I guess for me it was the lying part.
Mm-hmm.
Just that he, made up lies about everything. And that it started very early on in our relationship with the lying. I thought it was odd that he would lie about very simple things when he could have very easily told me the truth. And so I sort of downplayed it as it wasn't really important. But I seen, as we progressed through our relationship, it started becoming lies about everything and anything all the time. And it just became really frustrating for me to distinguish between what was truthful and what was not. And for me, that was a kind of a red flag that I sort of ignored, but I really should have paid a lot more attention to. So,
Okay. Okay.
mhm.
And okay, how about the history? Like, I'm just thinking it might be insightful for people to know too. When did you meet? Like, what were your ages? And like, was it love at first sight? Like, I don't know, was it one of those relationships that you were at the altar and you're kind of, or a family member perhaps? Like, maybe give us a little bit of history of surrounding the relationship too.
Yeah, so I was very young when I met him. I was 18. And we kind of met through a friend. We were out at a bar actually,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how we met. And I guess was it love at first sight? I mean, obviously there was like the attraction, physical attractions
Mm-hmm.
there. It took a little bit to get in love with him. He was very charming initially. He would do every like sweet little gestures, like, holding the door open, and, he'd randomly show up at my house and pick me up, and we'd go for, out somewhere. It was unexpected, little things like that. Or he'd buy me little things. So initially it seemed very easy, very like, he was really into me. And
Very,
yeah, and so
very charismatic. It's
yes,
usually a trait. Yeah.
yes, absolutely. Like he was really charming. We
Mhm.
got along really well. It seemed like we went out a lot of the time. He seemed to have, he seemed to be really confident. And it was, I guess that's what attracted me to him. And I guess we were both younger. Like he's a little bit older than me, but we were both fairly young at the time. So yeah, the love part came maybe, I don't know, a few weeks later, but yeah, it did sort of come to that eventually. It
Okay.
wasn't really love at first sight, but yeah, it took
Yeah.
a few weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And then how long did you date, and how long after marriage did you wait to have children?
Yeah, so we dated for almost 10 years, honestly,
Mm.
before we got engaged. So it was a really long time. And then actually, I got pregnant really quickly. So it was almost immediately after the wedding that I got pregnant. And so we had kids almost instantly. So,
Okay. Okay.
mhm.
Did you notice anything different about the relationship after having children? Like, how was he as a father?
Yeah, it wasn't what I expected. It was kind of ironic. I mean, obviously I love my kids, I do, but having kids was not a huge priority for me. It was more he wanted the kids.
Oh,
And so, ironically enough, after we had the kids, it was a lot of me doing all the work. I was hopeful that maybe he would step up and help, but that was just not the case. I don't know if he didn't really understand what it was to be a parent and a father and what kind of obligations that came with, but I don't think he was really ready for that, because it ended up where I ended up having to take all the responsibility of the kids, and
okay.
it was a lot.
Like like a give me a day in the life of Susan. Like, what was that like with young children?
Yeah, it was exhausting. So I'd wake up in the morning or be up all night with the kids. I'd have to make breakfast for me and, him, and the kids. I would be cleaning the house, doing all the errands. I guess I had pets at the time, so I was taking care of the pets. There wasn't a lot that I didn't do. Uh, Basically the only thing I didn't do was the yard work. That was sort of what he did, but I basically did everything else. So from morning till night, I did all the housework, all the things with the kids, and it
And, and you worked full time.
I did.
Yeah.
Yes. So after my first son was born, my husband at the time wanted me to go back to work full time. So I did, and it was exhausting. It was emotionally challenging because not only was I working full time at my job that's quite stressful and very strenuous, as far as activity wise. But my son also didn't sleep through the night. So I'd be up with him from midnight till 6 a.m. every day. And it was exhausting because I wasn't getting sleep. I would try to ask my husband to help me. And he would just get mad at me and tell me that, he has to sleep, he has to work tomorrow. But he kind of forgot about the fact that I also had to work. And so everything was put on me and it just became a lot.
Mm-hmm. And so I'm guessing that you slowly were pulling away from the relationship. I mean, you guys were disconnecting.
Yeah.
I'm guessing big time.
Yeah.
I have a couple questions for you. What did that mean in terms of spending time together or even intimacy?
Yeah. I mean, I wanted nothing about intimacy. I was exhausted. That was not even an option in my head. Um, I also, honestly, I was a little resentful to him because of the fact that I just felt he never pulled his weight. And it was really difficult for me to be intimate because I was sort of starting to lose those feelings for him. Yeah. So, yeah, I definitely was pulling away because I guess to say honestly, I was angry and frustrated that, he didn't recognize that I needed help. And it just seemed like to me it was very obvious that he should have stepped in on multiple occasions to help me out and he didn't, and that was really frustrating.
Yeah. How did he feel about you pulling away?
Oh, he did not like that. To him he was living his normal life, nothing changed in his life, so he expected to be intimate with me regardless of how I felt. I mean, it wasn't sometimes, or at least I felt it wasn't an option for me. He wanted to be intimate and I didn't have a choice, regardless of how I felt. And that was really, frustrating as well.
So no didn't mean no.
No. Yeah, exactly. I didn't have an option to say no. And if I did, it was not a good scenario.
What does that mean?
Well, there would be a lot of yelling, a lot of fighting. There would be multiple times like I would try to leave the house or leave the bedroom, and he would come after me. And the worst part is my kids were there. And so, of course, in the end, you end up just sort of going along with it because, your kids are there and you don't want to wake them up or traumatize them or involve them in any way. So you just sort of go along with this process that you're no longer wanting to be part of.
Did he ever physically harm you?
There was times, yes. Yeah. Like a couple of incidences where, more just like shoving, pushing, especially when it came to intimacy, he'd get really mad about that. And so there was definitely times where he would push me or shove me or, do certain things like that. So.
And how long after those moments did you realize that this has to end? Like, was that 6 months after the physical pushing? Was that 12 months? How long?
Oh, it was years. It makes me sick to even say that.
Yeah.
It was years. It was years I stayed. There would be nights that I would get fed up and I would leave. I would actually, my family is very supportive. Thank God for that. And I would call my parents at night, sometimes 2 or 3 in the morning, and just say, I have to leave and he won't let me and I need help to get out. And so they would come and get me and I would leave and then I would go back, because that's what happens. Because in the end, like, my kids had to go to school and I had, to carry on with life. So I would probably say it was, maybe 6, 7 years of that.
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah. And it's beyond tough. That's not even the proper word. And as a therapist, I have to say that's one of the toughest things about our jobs because
yeah,
like when I think about you guys coming in to see me, I mean, I'm guessing you dragged him in. I'm sure he didn't arrange, the first session. And my memory of it, like, I mean, folks were talking probably 5-6 years ago now, so I don't remember exactly how many times you saw me as a couple, But I do remember, um, reaching out to you, um, you know, after the session and just sort of, you know, I don't know, gently telling you that this is a very unhealthy, toxic relationship and something needs to be done. And probably encouraging you to leave him.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is something a therapist doesn't normally do. It's very rare that I would reach one of the partners. It's only when I'm um very, very concerned. And so it then I didn't hear from you, which is again a very concern. It was like a year or two or
Yeah.
something, and then I think you get to that point then where you're breaking down and you reach out and I remember just sighing and thought, oh my, this is continuing on, but seeing you guys again as a couple and then not hearing from you. And like, I guess in those times, myself, nor your parents, nor a girlfriend, nor, anybody can
Mm-hmm.
get you out of that but
Yeah,
yourself.
that's true. Absolutely. That's definitely the truth. I can say for sure that, I mean, for sure, my family told me a million times to get out and leave him. My sisters, they did not like him. They wanted me to leave. They told me that all the time. And it was frustrating for me because I knew that it needed to happen. But the problem was I couldn't figure out how to do it in a way that was safe for me to go, as well as, not affect my kids significantly. Um, and you're right, like nobody can tell you to do something that you're not ready to do. And I think it's, once that person makes that decision to leave, then that's really important. But they're the only ones who have to make that decision because unfortunately, until they come to their own conclusion on their own, it doesn't matter what people say to them. It can be really, really bad, but it doesn't matter what people say. They're gonna stay, and it's unfortunate that that happens, but that's just the way it is, unfortunately.
Yeah, like I mean, hearing you say that, would can is there anything that you know I could learn, or another parent could learn, or a sister could learn, or an aunt or an uncle could learn that would help women out like you in those situations besides physically, removing you from the home, let's say? Like, I mean, is there anything like that we could have said, that you sort of realize now? Maybe I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I guess two things. The first thing is, instead of maybe saying, he's a bad person, look what he does to you, you should leave, all these different things. I think it's important that they say, like, look at the characteristics that's happening. Like, for example, when my sister finally said, I think he's a narcissist, and this is what that means. Do you think that applies to him? And it made me start to think, I think maybe that is the case. I think maybe he is a narcissist. And oh my gosh, like all of these characteristics really do fit what is happening. And
Mm.
unfortunately, well, or for me, the other thing that happened, a main huge pivotal point in my, life was my oldest son actually was in therapy. And while I was going through this process with my ex-husband, I would randomly say little things to her that kind of started to raise concern with her. And she
Mm.
actually pulled me aside and she said, look, I think, do you need help? And maybe if I can just suggest for you to call this women's helpline, because I feel like you need to talk to somebody, because I honestly think that you're in an abusive situation where you need to get out. And it was such an eye opener for me. And I thought, like, oh my God, am I in an abusive situation? And so I called the women's helpline and I spoke to somebody there, and she pointed out all these different things that I had just kind of undermined and just pushed away aside, and they weren't important. And even though I'm sure I thought at the time that they were red flags, I had just sort of buried them underneath everything else. And I thought, well, maybe this is just, maybe I am acting crazy. Maybe I am being ridiculous. Maybe my feelings that I'm having, aren't correct. But then when the women's helpline lady started pointing out like this, tell me, explain to me an instance, and I'm going to tell you why this is abusive. And then that really opened my eyes, and I thought, oh my gosh, like I'm completely oblivious to what's actually happening, because I think I've been trying to downplay this for a very long time. Yeah. And it really just started opening up my eyes.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is so important to forgive yourself for that too. Like, I mean, I know there's, whether it was like through your son, through his therapy, that, whatever it was, the sequence of events that brought you to this realization, even for some women, it might be a friend dropping a book on narcissism on their front step. Like, who knows what it is, like the come to Jesus moment, or, as they say. But I think what's so important is to like forgive yourself, right? Like it's and not to think that you're stupid. It's just, I think the biggest thing is that you don't realize what your ex-husband, like how he manipulated your mind in a very like chronic, like daily way, to the point where you were seeing yourself through his eyes only. So those little comments he would make about perhaps you being lazy, worthless, crappy mom, whatever that was he was saying to you, it was like just like sinking in your brain. And and you just thought you believed him.
Yes, absolutely. For sure. It's really interesting how, like you said, it's very subtle manipulations. Mm-hmm. And also, I would have, reactions and feelings to certain things that he would do and say. And what would happen is that he would get very angry at me and start saying, well, basically he was undermining my feelings and telling me that, what I'm feeling isn't correct. And then it started to make me question, am I overreacting? And that was such a struggle for me, because I couldn't distinguish between, like, was I overreacting or are my feelings correct in this scenario? And it frustrated me that he always tried to manipulate how I felt and thought. And it was not okay.
No, it was not okay. Okay. So let's bring some sunshine into this whole conversation by saying that there is light on the other side. And
oh my God, yes.
and let's just sort of like let the audience know what your life is like now. You broke away, and it's not to say it's easy, and it's still not. Yeah. But let's just get a glimpse of how it went then.
Yes, I left. Honestly, man, best decision of my life. I feel so much better. Of course, there's challenges where, I have days where it's exhausting, because, as much as you want to try to completely eliminate them from your life, you can't, because you have, like, for example, I have children with him. So I have to, unfortunately co-parent with him. But being away from him, not being in that kind of relationship, oh my gosh, just for my mental health, I just feel safe. I felt unsafe living there. Every day was a nightmare, to be honest. So to just be able to wake up in the morning and be free on my own, to do my own things, not have to really answer to anybody, make my own decisions, be independent. It's just very uplifting. it's honestly very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. And would you like how long would you recommend not even like I think this is important to say too is it's sort of I mean it's there's going to be a 6 month I think at least 6 month to 12 month time where you're still recovering and but not to step into another really I mean you're recovering and I think as
Mm-hmm.
crazy it is to say there's probably like a certain amount of time that you're second guessing what you did
Yeah.
and perhaps that's with the children asking about their dad or why are we in a different home or was there ever any second guessing and to like to get over that hump like maybe talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. Was there second guessing? Of course, I had moments where I thought maybe I should just go back. It would be easier because this is hell, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Going through the divorce process and the court system and, dealing with my kids' reactions to everything. I lived at my parents' place for several years after I left him. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't really have a home of my own, and that was really difficult. So there were some moments I would sit there and I think, oh, maybe I should just go back because it's easier in a way.
Mm-hmm.
But then I would realize that honestly, no, that's not good. I can't do that. I have to just keep moving forward. And I know it's going to be tough, but in the end, it's going to be better. So I just had to tell myself that, yes, this is hard. And of course, there's moments where I think it would be so easy to go back, but why do I want to do that? I've made the decision to leave and I just have to keep moving forward because it will get better and it will get easier. So,
Okay, perfect.
mm,
Anything other advice for women that could possibly find themselves in this scenario?
yeah. Yeah. I just want to tell them to not be ashamed of it or embarrassed about how they feel. And if they're feeling these feelings, it's really important to reach out to somebody like a therapist or
Mm-hmm.
a friend or a family member to let them know what's going on because it's really easy to ignore the warning signs for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so important not to, um, trust your intuition and just really remember that if you're feeling these feelings, then there's a reason for it. And don't
Mm-hmm.
let anyone control how you feel or think.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, no shame, no
yeah,
blame. Yeah.
no
No.
embarrassment. Don't feel embarrassed. I felt embarrassed. And why? This was not my doing. I
No.
just got wrapped up in a bad scenario. So,
Yeah.
yeah, don't feel that way at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is, we know that it tends to be women that are, that have huge hearts and the crazy thing too is I think a lot of it you're doing it for the children.
Yes, for
And
sure. Yeah, I definitely stayed longer than I should because of that reason. But then I started to ask myself, is this a better environment for my kids? We're
mhm,
fighting every single day. Sometimes it's physical. They're seeing that. I don't want
mhm,
my kids growing up in this volatile situation because, and for example, for me, I'm raising two boys. I do
yeah.
not want my boys to learn that this is how you treat a woman ever.
No. No.
So it's time to get out. You
Yeah.
know, it is
Yeah.
better for them.
Yeah. Okay, Susan. Well, thanks so much. So appreciate you being willing to do this for the sake of other women that find themselves in this scenario. And I really appreciate your time today.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Okay, take care. Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay, thanks, Anne, for joining me today so that we can, continue to give some valuable information for other women that have or that might be in a toxic relationship now and unable to see the forest for the trees, let's say. So in the beginning of the relationship, when you were dating your ex, let's start there. What were some red flags that you ignored?
There were quite a few flags. I would say the glaring red flag, flashing lights, sirens going off was when his ex-girlfriend came to my door to try to caution and warn me personally based on her experience that she had just had. And I ignored it. I ignored it and closed the door in her face. And she was just trying to help me. She was trying to warn me.
Okay, so what do you think it is about your character then? And this is I think it's really important to talk about, like, your character, your personality, um because, like, that can be your friend or your foe. So what is it about your personality now and reflection that you would want to change? um
Well, hindsight's 2020, but um, you know, I I'm a very outgoing person. I'm a very independent and strong individual. And I like to always see the best in people. I like to see their potential. I see all the good in them. And,
mhm.
you know, I I think part of it maybe was I was young, I was in denial, call it infatuation, call it um, uh,
Yeah.
just caught up in the moment of it. You didn't want what others were warning you of to be true.
Hmm.
You didn't want it to be you, right?
Hmm.
Um, and I should have followed my gut. I should have followed my gut. Your gut never lies. And you and I have talked about this before. I'm not
Yeah.
talking about leading with the heart. I'm talking about that message in the pit of your stomach that is
Hmm.
screaming at you, trying to get you to pay attention, and we ignore it.
Hmm.
We ignore our gut instincts, our body telling us that something is not right, and to caution, to be on alert. And I think that um, we suppress it and we push it away.
Hmm. Yeah, it's yeah, we were talking about it. And I think that this is important too. I want to mention that, you know, Anne and I, like, this is one thing that really admire you is many women, I think, post getting out of a toxic relationship, possibly with a narcissist or possibly like just a toxic relationship, feel that, I'm done now. But it's it takes time to heal. It's so what Anne has done is schedule continued therapy with me. It's once every 3 weeks, and it tends to be like a really nice, it's like almost every 3 weeks. It's sort of like, I think you've said this too, is do I need to see? And then the 3 weeks come around, you're like, oh boy. Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
got stuff to talk about. But I think this just speaks to, like, it takes time to heal the heart. And I
And you
love,
have to be open to that.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I this is a very long time ago now. This isn't recent. This is many, 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 many years ago. And there was a period in time through my healing and my self rediscovery that I thought I was okay, that I thought, I didn't need, I call it my maintenance program anymore. And it was quite some time between sessions. I think well over a year had passed. And I woke up one day, I'll never forget it. I woke up at about 4:30 in the morning on a weekend. And I woke up and I realized I'm not okay. Like, I am not okay. I'm not sleeping. My sleep is disrupted. My subconscious is going down the rabbit hole. I'm anxious. How did I get here again? And I think it's very important that women understand it is a process. And you will have stretches where you're doing really well, where you're very positive, where you have your head screwed on straight, and you will go through, parts where you won't be okay. And you need to be in tune with your gut, in tune with your soul or your spirit, whatever you want to call it, your intuition, and listen to those signals because your body speaks to you. And when you start to see physical reaction, it's an indicator something's wrong. And the maintenance, again, like I said, I call it my maintenance program. I learned that this is necessary for the long term to remain healthy, to remain objective, and to not succumb to not call them mistakes or poor choices, or maybe not aware enough in the past.
Yeah, well said. And I think most women that have gone through this have had children. And that's the other thing, right? It's not like you can just walk away from this relationship and never think about it again. You're co-parenting. So I think that's one of the toughest things about this is that it's like it's a constant reminder because
Correct.
of the back and forth of the child or the children.
And yes, every day you're reminded, and I choose to see it as my gift. The children are the gift, and you remind yourself that in spite of what transpired, you have this wonderful family, you have amazing children, and that is the gift that came from that journey. And you can choose to embrace it every day and see the positive in that rather than the negative.
Yes. And I think your lawyer gave you some wonderful advice right in the beginning. Yeah. Do you want to share that?
I'm assuming that you're meaning the statement, make your peace with it.
Yeah, because
this happened. This is your reality. Make your peace with it.
Well, yeah, and the fact that once your child, enters their home, there is absolutely nothing you can do.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. I think that, and again, this is quite some time ago. One thing I was grateful for, am grateful for, is my attorneys were very clear in stating, encouraging non-emotional decision making. Right? They were very fact-based, saying this is your new reality. Once the children go to their dad's house, you have no control. You have no control. You have no say unless the children are in immediate danger or there's immediate risk to them. You're out of the picture, and make your peace with it. Matter of factly, make your peace with it.
Yeah. I think that to take on that sort of stance right in the beginning, I think it's sobering, but it is reality, and you might as well make peace with it because, like you said,
the anxiety that came from the unknown, the anxiety that came from all the what ifs and all the not knowing, depending on what the communication levels are. Obviously that's changed through the journey. But in the initial separation, relationships were not good. Communication was not good. And if any, and we are social beings, so we are wired to have face-to-face conversation, hear someone's voice, have intonation. So when that is severed, it can cause a lot of deep-rooted anxiousness and nervousness. And the sooner that you can look after your own mental health and be factual with yourself, not feeling based, be factual. This is the facts. This is my new reality. This is what, my my legal supports have advised me to do. That's what I'm paying them for.
Mm-hmm.
And make your peace with your new reality to
Mm-hmm.
make it the best possible situation. It is not worth, I want to say, stressing over, because how do we stop ourselves from doing that as parents? But the mental anguish that you can submit yourself to and choose to submit yourself through, by the unknown, can be paralyzing.
Yeah.
And I had those moments, many, many moments.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to keep yourself healthy mentally, physically. And as bad as this is going to sound, talk to a professional about what you're feeling, not necessarily to your friends.
Yeah.
Your friends are there to make you feel better. Your friends are there to be sympathetic, not just empathetic. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, they're going to support you and hear you and be there when you cry and be there when you're angry. But that's not necessarily the best treatment for your mental health,
Mm-hmm.
because that can create a vortex of self-pity and fear and anxiety that is not good for you in this process. It's not good for your body.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And as I hear you speak, I know your personality, obviously, because we've had many years of history together now, but you are a extremely strong, confident woman who, in your career, has done, very well, and many aspects of your life. And I think, maybe it was sort of this, a little bit of, I'm not going to say a gift, but it's sort of like it taught you that working harder at something is not necessarily the best way to go about it, or trying to, control a situation that you can't control. Because I think that's the way, when we're brought up very confident and strong, independent, it's sort of like, well, I will just work harder at this relationship, or, hell or high water, I'm going to make this work, until it doesn't. And
Mm-hmm.
and then a lot of probably self-blame went along with it. It's like, what could I do better? And then, but that's when, like, you're in the eye of the storm and you can't
You
see,
can't see beyond that.
you know.
The questioning your self-worth, the
Mm-hmm.
self-blame, the guilt, the self-shaming, whatever you want to call
Mm-hmm.
it. A mantra I try to live by now is give it your best, but do not give it your all. And what I mean by that is we have to remind ourselves, ladies, you need to have something left at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And you may have been brought up to give it your all. When I say it, I mean your relationship,
Mm-hmm.
that you're giving your partner everything and you're going to try so hard and you're going to do all of these things. You have to have something left at the end of the day. And when you're on the outside looking back in, I completely lost myself and my own identity and my own personality, because I had quite literally given it my everything. And what was left for me at the end of the day when I'm standing there by myself? And I say that in the position of having been the wife. And when I say standing by myself, is it is okay to give it your best and you do the best that you can, but do not martyr yourself and give it your all, because at the end of it, you have to have something left to keep going.
Yeah. 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 To continue to be the employee, to continue to be the mom, to continue to, like you say, have your own self-identity back, your own
The world
self-worth.
keeps turning in the
Mm-hmm.
midst of your crisis.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
your world may falling apart and what you knew to be true may be completely undone, but the
Mm-hmm.
sun still rises and sets, bills still have to be paid, work still has to take place, households still have to be tended to, children, that all keeps happening, whether you're ready to do it or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And your situation was a little bit different in the sense that you didn't have family to go to. You have a very supportive family, but they weren't close to.
By.
And yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
and
tell me, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, well, I was going to say, like, I mean, you mentioned something about, being on the driveway of your new home.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, which wasn't your driveway. I mean, it wasn't actually your home, but
no, I hadn't purchased it. No.
Yeah.
Yes, the moment I embraced my new reality, and this is going way back in the memory bank, but it was a pivotal moment. Is I found myself at a point in time in this journey where I was standing in my driveway. I had walked away from my career. I had no vehicle. Was post-separation. My dog, my house, my husband was gone. Of course, you still have the children. And I remember standing in my driveway and smiling and laughing because I had never been so free. And I remember the moment like it was yesterday. And some would look on the outside looking into it would say, well, but you have nothing. No, I have everything because I can completely rewrite my story.
Yeah. 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 It's the beginning of a new life, like just a new start, a new life, a blank slate.
You become the author.
Yeah.
You become the author.
Yeah.
And you have, and that's a gift rather than seeing it like a failure or like, you did something wrong. It's a gift to have the opportunity to be the author again of your story. And it will be what you choose to make it.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, in some circumstances, there's things outside of your control. But where you choose to position yourself mentally and emotionally, how you choose to see it will have a huge impact on your journey and coming out the other side of it.
Yeah. 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 And I thinking about your personality again, again, like a strong, independent, confident personality can be a real hindrance to this. It's because when when the going gets tough, the tough get going, right? And when one partner is completely slacking off, you are just going to make up for it. That's what we do.
The when you think about the slap in the face moments, and I don't mean literally, I mean the awakening moments, and they were not necessarily good ones. One of the most difficult things to come to terms with in the journey was that my partner was never going to meet me halfway. No matter how hard I tried, no matter what I did, no matter, you talked about, just work harder at it, just give it more, is accepting for myself that my partner was never going to do that. And that is a really painful feeling because you commit to this relationship, you go into the relationship wanting a lifetime, or in my case, wanting a lifetime, wanting it to be, the long haul journey with your partner, and having to accept that no matter what I did, no matter how hard I worked, no matter how much I put into it, they were never going to meet me halfway. That was a really hard moment. I wouldn't even say moment. That was a hard
reality
face.
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing I want to point out here too, that in your situation, there wasn't any physical
No,
harm.
no.
But the emotional one was, whew.
Yes.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
but I think that part of that is because there's no physical harm, there's no fear in your personal safety, and I was never ever scared that my husband would cause any harm to me physically. um, but I think that we miss the mark when it comes to the emotional
Yeah.
neglect. Is there's a difference between being alone and being lonely. To be lonely within a relationship is far worse than being alone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
and I think because we associate trauma, or we associate abuse, or whatever, however you want to call it, with um, physical evidence, with visible
Mm-hmm.
signs,
Mm-hmm.
that we kind of enable or ignore or accept that, maybe it could, for some women, it may be cutting words, or it may be being berating or being demeaning in words. That was not the case in my situation. But there's different examples of where the trauma and the pain uh, comes from a non-physical place.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we then tend to justify it, or tend to not see or ignore the warning signs of the harm it's causing to ourselves and to the relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. To to your heart.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Your heart, your mental health, yes.
Yeah. So how about like during the counseling sessions that we had, what what advice, or when did you sense that this is not really going like I thought it would?
Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it would be the moment where uh, the time came that my husband was going to hear what I had to say, and where I had needed from him, and where he had let me down as a partner, as a wife, and he wasn't having it. When it came time for me to have a voice in the process, um, he he left. He abandoned counseling
Mm-hmm.
and therapy, and he was no longer participating. And that was another painful moment, is having been married to someone, and I talked about them meeting you halfway, is I remember the feeling of, so I'm your wife, and you don't even want to hear what I have to say. You don't want to hear where I was let down, or I was um, neglected, or where I needed more from you.
Mm-hmm.
And that was painful. That was really hard to accept.
Yeah, and I remember this too. Even though, like you say, it's many many years ago, I remember instructing you not to have these difficult conversations at home because you
Oh
weren't
God,
able
yeah.
yeah, you weren't able to have those conversations at home, so you had to wait to come into the office. And I think that was like, yeah, that was very telling, that when it came time for you to sort of present your story, your perception of the situation, he didn't want to have anything to do with it. He didn't. No. So that's
Correct.
where he stopped attending therapy. So you couldn't discuss it with him at home, and you couldn't discuss it with him in the room. He had
Mm-hmm.
nothing to do with it.
And that's where I talk about the moment where I had to accept that my partner was not going to meet me halfway.
Yeah.
And that did not define my worth. That did not define my self-worth or whether, I was enough. And going through that process, because I mean, your immediate reaction to that situation is, well, why not? What do you mean? What do you mean you don't want to hear what I have to say? What do you mean you're not participating after all this? And you don't even want to know what I needed from you. And that, again, a very difficult process, and through lengthy therapy and working on my mental health.
Yeah.
I got to a place where I knew it wasn't that I wasn't enough, or that it didn't define me. But you have to get there, and it's a journey. If you think this is a 90-day turnaround time, it is not, and you're fooling yourself.
Yeah. What would be one other thing, and that you'd want to leave, the other women, the audience, and men too. Men are stuck in toxic relationships. So,
one thing, there's so many things.
Yeah.
Again, going back to trust your gut. Listen to your internal compass. Those signals are there for a reason. Excuse me. And also, and this may come across quite assertively, is, wake up. I use the saying, wake up, put your lipstick on, and deal with your stuff. Right? Do whatever you need to do to feel empowered as an individual, to, be it, I make the comment about lipstick or high heels or your best outfit or whatever it is that makes you feel successful as an individual, is embrace that. Stop spending energy looking back, and put that energy into moving forward, and quit sitting on it. We tend to live in, we will allow ourselves to live in the past if we're not willing to do the work to move forward. And you need to just get up, put your power thing on, whatever that may be, and go deal with your business. Whatever that business is, be it relationship, be it your career, be it your home, or whatever it may be. Stop making excuses and set yourself a goal and embrace that.
Yeah. Well said. Yeah. Instead of trying to save the marriage, it's time to start saving your self-worth, your identity, and, remind yourself of the person that you actually are, that you always were. Go back to that, who you were at 7 or 9, that young girl, and just be reminded of that. And I think, I've said it before and I'll say it again, is that's the problem with emotional abuse, is that it's done in a very seemingly deliberate and strategic way, in a sense, by your partner. It's sort of like a drip happening, like torture, and you don't even realize it's happening.
You don't realize it's happening.
And
yes,
I see this over and over and over again, that, when I'm speaking to these women in the room, it's sort of like they're like a deer, looking in the headlights. It's like, what do you mean? There's like, he's not this is not a good relationship. Really? What makes you say that? There's so many things I need to work on about myself. And yes, we all do, but you've lost yourself as an individual, and he is not willing to, support your growth. He is not willing to look at his own. Like, that's the thing. Like, if your partner is not able to look at his role in the demise of the marriage and how it's broken down, and because that's what I saw, you were bending over backwards. Like, what else can I do? What other hoop can I jump through? Here, give me more journal homework or prompts, or
Oh God.
how else can I self-reflect?
Please, no more
Yeah.
homework.
Yeah. No, it's sort of, oh my gosh. I mean,
Yes.
you did everything, and it's
I
still.
think, but I mean, that's on me, right? The indicators were there. The the warning signs were there that my partner was not going to meet me halfway. And I needed to pay attention to that rather than deny it, live in denial, and just work harder, work harder, work harder.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
I, and yeah, I mean, had I listened to that, I could have saved myself a lot of uh, pretty, pretty awful times. I mean, for myself as an individual, right?
Yeah, but that's one thing, like, in we should end on, though, is it's sort of like, it's sort of a divine sequence of events. There's nothing to say that, if I should, if I why didn't I hear you? Like, what was, like, I should have. And no, it's all happened in the sequence for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And it was your growth and evolution, throughout it, that now you know yourself even more. And
And that's another gift, right? That's
mm-hmm,
another gift from the outcome,
mm-hmm,
and focusing on the gifts and on the blessings that come from experiences. And that's a place that you have to choose to be. I'm not
right.
saying it's easy. I'm not saying every day I'm there, but you can
No.
choose to see it as a negative, or you can choose to embrace the gifts to
Mm-hmm.
continue to build and grow as an
Yeah.
individual.
Yeah. And so, and with that, like, that's why I'm very thankful that you came on today and shared this, because, these words will help others through their own journey, for sure.
And I hope that I can help someone out there.
Well, I know you have already, definitely. So thank you for that, Anne. And yeah, we will carry on. You and
Most
I.
definitely.
Okay. Take care, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Okay, bye. So, Sarah, thanks so much for joining me today and talking about how you were able to finally get out of abusive relationship. Now, let's talk about the dating phase, because I think this is always important to kind of note, because we are all swept up in that time, that we're starry-eyed, and we're
See, I never
unicorns.
was. I
Hmm?
wasn't
Oh, you
really.
weren't? Okay.
No. So it was funny because we had met online,
Mm-hmm.
and online he had a great personality and he was very funny, sense of humor like mine. So then when he was like, want to meet up, I was like, sure. So we ended up meeting up at a bar not far from where I live to have a drink. And I got along with him very well on a personality level, but I was not that attracted to him. He was not my type.
Mm.
Um, and like I didn't want him to kiss me at the end of the day because I'm like, I really felt like a friend feeling with him. And then so we ended up closing out the bar, laughing our butts off, like joking around, we had a great time and went home. And then my friends were asking me about it. And I was like, you know what? I don't really know. It's not really my type. I was always dating guys that were over 6 feet tall. And like, I like my men big. And he was like 5'7". He was going bald. But he had a really good sense of humor and he did a lot of stuff. And like, I had been single for 3 years, kind of took a sabbatical because the last boyfriend before that had cheated on me and it was rough. So I had taken a break and I was ready to go back out. And everybody was like, just give him a chance. Give him a chance. I know he's not the same as what you would normally go for, but give him a chance. So yeah. And so that's kind of what I ended up doing, was just because I liked his personality part of it when we started out, but I was never like super swept up. I talked about breaking up with him like a lot at first because I just,
Yeah, it's interesting.
yeah,
It's like it's different from what you would normally um think or predict,
no.
that it was more like lust and just like being young and
No,
all of that.
I think for me it was because I love adventure and doing a lot of stuff. And
Mm,
he was like that. And I think for me, I'm like, I get along with this guy really well. We have a really good sense of humor, and he loves to do stuff,
mm-hmm.
and I was 23, I guess, at the time. And a lot of guys at 23, all they wanted to do was go to the bar and get drunk. I wanted to go on adventures and do fun things. And here came this guy who liked to go hunting and snowmobiling and quadding and fishing and all the great outdoor stuff and hiking. And I love all that stuff. So to find a guy that had a personality that I liked and seemed to be
Yeah.
adventurous,
Yeah.
that's what got me into it so much, because
Mm-hmm.
it was like at the end of the day, everybody was like, well, looks don't last forever anyway. So he might be hot today, but in 10 years, you're just seeing him
Right.
bald now instead of later, kind of thing.
Right. No,
And
no, it does make sense. I mean, because like I think sometimes too, or many times, there's things about our fathers that we see in our partners, and that maybe we admired about our partners, or that were similar in our families, perhaps, like maybe your dad was one of these outdoor guys
my
too
my
that were
my
invented.
biological father was very much, yeah. He had
Okay.
taught me how to do archery, and we did canoeing and camping a
Yeah.
little bit as kids with him. So
Yeah,
yeah.
so that makes sense. You connected on that level, but
Mm.
there was something about the other parts of him that, yeah, wasn't what connected you in a very deeply romantic way, perhaps.
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
okay, well, I mean, how long did it take you into, like, or past marriage, when
Mhm.
that you kind of was like, hmm, this something's not right
So
here.
So like when I look back now, I see some things that he did while we were dating. And I mean, and he still moved fast. I mean, he had me living in his house with him. Like I met him in February and I was living with him by the end of May.
Mm,
So they're kind of sped into that because he lived really far away and we were always having fun together. So we wanted to hang out all the time. So he was like, just come live with me. And then there were things now that I look back on that he did that I thought were just, he's a country boy. I'm a city girl. It's what country boys do, because you always hear like that. There's always that thing, the country boy knows how to take care of the woman and da 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 kind of
mhm,
thing, right?
mhm, mhm.
So now when I look at it, I realize, it was probably more of like a control thing, but he kind of sold it on me like he's trying to take care of me. And as somebody who was kind of felt like they had to take care of themselves all the time, it was kind of nice to feel like somebody wanted to take care of me.
Mhm.
So I didn't see it. Like he was like, I don't want you having a credit card. I don't want you having any debt. I don't want any of that because I want to just take care of you and I don't want that on your plate. You shouldn't have to worry about stuff like that. So he had like paid off my credit card, made me get rid of it and things like that. And yeah, at the time I thought, oh, it's just a guy who wants to take care of me. And I also was a girl who was afraid of debt. So
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely a theme that and I should mention here too that this is different from like some of the other couples that I have seen in terms of toxic relationships. I never did meet your partner. It was
No.
you coming,
Mm.
I guess sensing, after some time that there's something that's not right here. And
And yeah, he
yeah,
wouldn't come.
no,
Yeah.
no,
And
he
well, and
act
well, to be fair too, by the time I was with you, you were
mm,
my third person I was seeing. I had gone, I didn't have a crap ton of money and he wasn't supportive of it. So I started by going to the U of W with the students or whatever.
right.
I did something with that and they asked him to come and I asked him to come and he always said no. And then a friend of mine had referred me to another counselor and I came to like I think around like 11 maybe 12 of them and my ex showed up to three of them and always had an excuse to miss it and there was always something more important.
Mm-hmm.
And when that counselor had told him that he was a narcissist and
Mm.
then explained to him what it was and he basically said, well, that doesn't sound like a bad thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
So
that would be a red
yeah,
flag.
well,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So
Yeah.
that was the point where I kind of was like, I need to get out of this. And that's when I started saving up a little bits of money here and there that I could like. And I saved for 6 years. It took me 6 years to leave.
And I have to let everyone know here, it's not like when you say save, it's not like there was a family business, a very good family business
Yeah.
that money was not an issue, but you had lost your independence
Yeah.
in
And I
terms
was
of
only allowed money when like, I was a school bus driver. So I made like $1,200 a month, and my money went to all the food in the house and anything the kids needed. Christmas presents for the kids, birthday presents for the kids, clothing, the food. If they were going to somebody's party, and if we wanted to go on an outing, I paid for all of it.
that. I mean, that makes no sense, right? When you think about it now, it's sort of like, isn't that why he's working? Isn't it for the family, the kids, and everything
No,
that goes along with?
you paid the bills. So he's like, I pay the mortgage, I pay all the bills, so you can do that. And I'm like, that's fair, except for what I was making every 2 weeks is like what he makes an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I
Mm-hmm.
mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
but no, it was if I wanted money from him, I needed to give him a reason. And then he would ask me where my money went. It was very much a financially controlled relationship. And he would hold that over my head all of the
Yeah.
time.
It's almost in a threatening way.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely. Yeah. Like
don't.
even like the house was in his name. It was not allowed to have my name on it. And anytime I did something he didn't like, he was like, well, where are you going to live if you go do that? Like I'd talk about wanting to do something, and this would be like even just a simple thing is like, I'm going to go get my hair cut. He's like, if you take off more than this much, you're going to have to find somewhere else to live. Like, like ridiculous things like that.
And dressing a
Oh
certain
yeah,
way.
he very interesting. If I wore anything with color, he'd get mad. Anything with a pattern, he hated, and he would make comments. I did it anyways because that's what I liked. And
Mm-hmm.
I would tell him that until he's paying for my clothes, because he wasn't, then and he wouldn't. So, but I started because it was such a problem. I did catch myself buying more like one tone and neutral tone things just to again avoid the fights and avoid the belittling and whatever else that he was going to say to me that day. Um, but and it was weird because but when we went out, he was like he used to go through. We had this like magazine that would come in the mail, and you could order clothes from it, and I would go through it and pick all the things that I'd like. And then he would come in and he'd look at it and he put X's over anything that I liked that he didn't like. And I was not allowed to order those. And then he would circle the things that he would like. And this place had a range of like very classy conservative clothing to the end of maybe call girl ish style clothes.
Mm.
And he would pick clothes like that and say that that's what he would want me to wear. And I'm like, I am a mom. I do not feel comfortable in that. And he would get like so mad that I wouldn't want to order those things. He's like, well, I want you to look nice when you're with me. And I'm like, that's not nice. That looks like call girl.
Yeah. like arm candy.
Yeah. And I used to say, like, he would make comments about my appearance and my weight. Like, I worked out like 6 days a week for 6 years, because 6 or 7 years probably, because I was not allowed to get fat like the people in my family. And he would say things like that to me. And then but then I got into this one workout program that was really heavy with lifting and stuff. And I was building a lot of muscle. And all of a sudden it was like, now you're working out too much and nobody likes a bodybuilder. So it was like one or the other. And then he would make comments. Like, I remember one day he said to me, um, it's weird. You don't look skinny, but when I hug you, you feel small. And I was like, I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you don't look skinny, but you feel small. Like, it was constantly like that. Nothing I ever did was good enough. I could always do better. But then when I made a comment to him, I'm like, you have a beer gut and you're bald and you like literally dress in just big baggy jeans and dirty t-shirts all the time because of your job. And when he went out, his idea of nice was a cleaner version of jeans and like a shirt with a design on it. I'm like, why do you get to look like that? Like, that's okay. You're allowed to
Hmm.
be chubby and out of shape, but I'm not. And he's like, well, I make the money, was always his answer. I have the money. I don't need to.
It was a real theme of money and
Mm,
his control over you, control over the money, control over you because of the money.
mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
He, I, and he was, we would argue about this all the time because I felt like he was all about the show.
Mm-hmm.
He needed people to walk by or look past and be like, that's what he's got. Like, he never really did anything with me and the kids very often. But if there was a time where he needed, like, it was like he'd bring us in if it helped make him look good. Like, look what I have. I
Mm.
have a beautiful wife and two adorable children. But then, whew, then he'd like shove us back in the corner and go off on his own little thing. Like, it was always just me and the kids, like, very rarely.
Were you allowed to work outside of the home?
Um, yes and no. The only job that I was approved to have was being a school bus driver.
Right.
It
Okay.
was part time. It was morning pickup, afternoon pickups, and then sometimes I would do field trips.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, he did not want me going to work full time. He did. I had at one time been a hairstylist. He did not want me doing that. The school bus was our compromise because I had always worked, and I was like, I'm not working.
Mm-hmm.
So he was fine with that because I was just with a bunch of kids.
Yeah, exactly. He
But
could.
even still, I did that for 13 years. And he every year would comment about, maybe this year you can quit doing it. Maybe this year you can quit doing it. But then he would complain that he had to pay for everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like,
So,
well, what do you expect is going to happen when you don't let your partner, you
and
know?
and you had two children,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
And how were they affected in all of this, would you say?
Well, when we were together, they basically did what I did. Like, we walked on eggshells. Like, dad pulled into the house. We waited to see what mood he was in, and they would decide how they kind of slowly learned how to just interact with dad based on me, almost, I would
Mm-hmm.
think. Um, Part of what finally made me decide to really, I needed to, like, this was time to leave, was when um, there was an incident. He decided he decided he was going to spend more time with the family and went and bought a boat without talking to anybody and without any knowledge of how to drive a boat and use a boat, anything. So, needless to say, the first summer with that boat was a disaster because nobody knew what we were doing. So, unloading it and loading it back up and all of that stuff was a mess. And any tiny bit of stress, it was like he would yell at you and call you names and tell you were stupid and things like that. So that was happening pretty much every weekend because I bought this boat, we're going to go use it. After like the third time, nobody wanted to go on that boat anymore because it was hell. And
Mm.
he was like, you just don't appreciate it. And on one occasion, my older boy looked at me and he said, Mom, did you know there's a thing called divorce?
Oh.
And I was like, yeah. He's like, you should think about that. And he was 10,
Oh, wow.
10,
Hmm.
11, maybe, when he said that to me. And I was like, holy shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's that
So
bad. It's,
yeah, when the kids are seeing it and the kids are saying it, and
yeah.
then like, and that, like, I don't know if it was the same boating incident or before or after. I just remember there was another boating incident where we just got on the water. We just started. He threw a fishing rod out, and the younger one got stung on the ear by, I don't know if it was a wasp or a bee, but he'd never been stung before, and his ear started to really swell up, and he was screaming and crying. And I'm like, his ear is swelling up a lot. What if he's allergic? Like, we don't know. And he just lost it. Basically, told my youngest kid that he got stung on purpose, that he was just trying to ruin the trip. And he refused to go back. So I'm sitting there with like a t-shirt, dipping it in the lake and putting it on his ear, trying to like cool it off and keeping an eye on it and cuddling him. And the whole time he's like, always fucking just family's fucking trying to ruin my fun. And like he muttering to himself and glaring at us and then and like spitting out little like insults to the little one for purposely getting stung and
It's
because he
crazy.
had still,
When you talk about it like now, you must just think,
even when it happened, I was like, what is wrong with you?
yeah,
And I'm just like,
yeah.
wish I could
So
apologize to my kids for picking the wrong person.
you were apologizing to your kids for,
I would like to.
yeah,
Days where I just
yeah.
want to, but like right now, his manipulative stage, a lot of times they're on his side at the moment. I'm the bad
Mm,
person. I'm the bad guy now because I left. So,
mm, yeah.
yeah.
And this is what continually makes it hard when something like this is going on with the children and the custody. And
Mhm.
I'm wondering, Sarah, how is he still withholding money from you?
It's been 2.5 years and I have not seen a cent from him.
Okay.
I haven't seen it. There's been no buyout. He's lying about how much money he makes. He lies how much the business makes. Um, he won't do a separation agreement because he doesn't want to do a separation agreement until the money part's done. But I want a separation agreement with the for the kids because he keeps changing stuff to wherever suits him. And he just tells the kids, well, if you want to do this, you're allowed to because you're old enough to make your own decisions. But yet, then when they want to make a decision that doesn't suit him, then they're not old enough to make the decisions. So it's only like when it benefits him.
Okay. So other women hearing this right now, that might make them very afraid to to do what you did to finally separate.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you tell them?
I was scared. It took me 6 years to do it. And honestly, the final for me was I just kept looking at, yeah, it's going to be scary to leave and do it on my own. And it was hard. And I've struggled, worked my butt off. But life is hard. So I kind of had I used to do a workout program, and the woman said, um, you can choose your hard. You could sit on the couch all day and gain weight and hate yourself, and that's going to be hard. Or you can get up and work out, start taking care of your body and feeling good about yourself, and that's going to be hard. So you need to choose the hard. And I knew if I stayed, it was going to be hard and I was going to be miserable. And I knew if I left, it was going to be hard. But at the end of the day, I would be happier. And for me, that's,
You're right. You're exactly
and
right.
when I
Yeah.
heard that, I thought it was so profound because it's
Hmm.
true. Like everything is hard. You just got to decide what hard you're willing to go for. And I
Yeah.
kicked myself, and I wish I did it when the kids were younger because I waited till they were old enough where they could be home alone, and that made it easier for him
Mm.
because he never took care of them when they were little, didn't know how to really, and because of
Yeah.
how much he obsessed about work and money, he would never have been home.
Right. Right.
So now that
Yeah.
they're old enough, he's never home, and whenever they're at his place, they are literally like alone.
Right.
He's gone out of town and told them not to tell me and left them at the house by himself for 48 hours at a time because of where schedule lied that week. I would drop him off at his house and
Yeah.
yeah.
And you're right. You're the way I word that as well, just like your fitness instructor did. It's sort of like you're miserable and disappointed now. Why aren't you choosing misery and disappointment and be free of him.
Mhm.
You know, but it doesn't remain like that. I mean, it's still hard, but you're free. You don't have that walking on eggshells, that anxiety,
Mhm.
every single day when you wake up, etc. And that that is like the gift that is complete freedom.
I think like for me, the worst was the going to halftime with my kids because I'd had them all the time.
Yeah.
So, but now that it's been 2.5 years, I kind of see it as a blessing because now I use all that time to get everything I need done.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I have them, I have them.
And it's
They're now teenagers, so they hide in their bedroom 90% of the time playing video games, but still,
right,
they know
right.
I'm there, right?
Yeah, exactly. And, I want to say this too for any women listening out there. I'll say it here, and I say it to many other individuals in this situation, that it's like this, and I'm glad we're talking about this. The teenage years can be, I mean, it's difficult in a normal family. Your teenagers it can be extremely challenging, and then you sort of become a single parent in the sense of when you're with them, you're a single parent. And um but it will come out, I always say, in the wash. Like, it might not be right now that you're seeing their appreciation of you, but in if him being as he is, there's going to be that time in your life where they are going to kind of go, well, your 10-year-old said it to you, and he's probably going to say it to you, whether it's 18, 19, or 20 or 25, is like, wow. you know um and and they will remember the times that you were with them, and they see him more for who he is. It's just having the trust, the belief, and the patience for that to happen, and being able to hold that, in these times where that you're in right now, and to just keep on showing up, being the mom that they appreciate and
Right.
and remember. So yeah, and but you did it. Like, I mean, you became financially independent in that way, and you still have trust in terms of being compensated in the way that is just, in terms of
Um,
him.
I It's all going to have to go through the courts.
Yeah.
He will not do anything proper. So my thoughts on it now, or I am just releasing it to the universe,
Yeah.
and it will allow what comes to come. I have more than enough. Every communication through him has to be through email. I have more than enough emails of him calling me every name in the book and how horrible I am and bad mouthing me for paragraphs at a time to show some things. And I have in these random things, he's admitting to stuff. I have proof that he's lying about his income. I have proof that he's lying about everything. So I think coming down to things, eventually it will happen. Will it be what I'm probably technically allowed? I doubt it. When we first split up, he was trying to be the good guy and amicable, and he said he had offered me a number for child support, and I said that was fine. I agreed to it. Get your lawyer to write it up, and then instead he went on a rampage of finding everybody that we have ever known and trying to talk them into talking me into staying with him and telling them I had mental problems and I needed to be committed. And he sent me an email telling me that he could book us an appointment so I could get in and get the help I needed and stuff like that. And so that offer never came. And honestly, if he just stuck to that offer, I would walk and that would be fine. For me, the biggest issue is more the kids and the time with the kids. He's never with them, so I don't see why they need to be at his house 50-50 because he's never there anyway.
Okay.
And he's done some things that are some pretty bad choices in the concern of their safety. Um,
Yeah.
so I have proof of that too. So I'm hoping, but nothing will, I don't think anything will come voluntarily from
Mm-hmm.
him. He will be forced by courts to do anything.
Yeah. So I think in summary, then what you're saying is, despite hearing all of that, it's still like no comparison better
Oh
than it was.
gosh, no, I am happy. I am a very happy person. I'm very content with my life. I'm proud of the things that I have done for myself in the last 2.5 years. Like,
Mm.
I didn't know if I could do it because I was like, I haven't really worked in the workforce in 20 years. Like, am I going to be able to find something to pay the bills? And I knew he would be like this with his money. That's why I saved for 6 years so that I
Mm-hmm.
would have something to get me started.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
now when I look, I don't have like a crap ton compared to what I had, but everything I have, I did myself and I'm proud of it. Like this past summer, I bought myself a barbecue because I didn't have a barbecue and I really, really wanted one. And sure, it was a cheap, shitty barbecue, but now I got a fucking barbecue and I did it on my own. So
Yes.
there, yeah, it was hard, but I would do it all over again because life is so much better now. I love
Yeah.
myself more and I'm always like, wait, I've like barely ever do I have like a down day.
That's amazing, Sarah. I mean, that says it all. And I think you're a great example of why I have the name of this podcast too, is I think I can, is to allow others to hear that you actually can do it all those years where you questioned it. And
Mm-hmm.
just if anything, I think most of the sum it up is all of the women are saying the same thing about being in relationships like this. Is like I just wish I would have done it sooner, but
Yeah.
no matter what, I'm just happier now than I ever have been. So um yeah, what let's leave the listeners with one thing, maybe that you realize, where you lacked like a huge boundary with him. Um, and
You know what? And it's something I still work on because I find myself doing it, especially with my children now, because sometimes they, especially one of them, will talk to me like he used to.
yeah,
Um, I have a really hard time. Like I'm a bit, I guess, of a people pleaser. Like I
yeah,
always just want to make everybody happy. So I would put down a boundary and then they would cross it. And then instead of being like, no,
mm-hmm,
I would, I'm going to forgive it this time, but next time.
mm-hmm,
And that kept happening and kept happening and kept happening. And I still catch myself doing it. And I'm trying really hard not to. And it's something that I have to work on. Um,
yeah, and you
but
and
yeah, when I look back, I wish I had made the decision what was acceptable and what wasn't acceptable
yes,
and
yeah,
just stuck to it more. But I was always like, or I really like them. So, or these are my kids. I don't want them to hate me. So I'm going to like let it be forgiven.
yeah, and Sarah, that's directly related to self-worth, right? And that's
Mhm.
what we need to continue to always work on and honor ourselves. But I think that's a great message to give other women out there, is that it just it for me to stay aligned to my values, what I feel is important, um and not make that boundary really vague and loose. And yeah, one day yes, it's okay to call me that, and the other day no. No, no, it's just what I say, drawing that line in the sand and making it very, very definite line. And they'll appreciate you for that. So continue to work on that skill, because it's probably one of the most important things that you can do.
I am daily.
Okay.
I try. Absolutely.
Okay. Okay. Well, thanks so much for your time today. And I know this is going to be just beautiful nuggets of wisdom for other
I
women that
hope
are.
I hope doing this will, somebody may see themselves in my story, and maybe it'll give them the strength that they need to leave too, or
Hmm.
at least that I can do coming out of what I went through is to help somebody else get out of it sooner, then it's worth it, right?
And I'll just see too, as a therapist, there's nothing that makes me happier than for someone like yourself to let me know then that I did it, I've done it, because no one can make you do it, right? It's sort of, yeah. So yeah. All right, well, I'll let you continue with your day, and again, thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye bye. Well, there you have it. I hope that this was insightful for you. It's meant to have you reflect on your relationship. And if you feel you're struggling in the areas of upholding your boundaries, if you feel like you're craving peace and harmony in your marriage because you're constantly arguing and you just feel like you're pushing a boulder up a mountain, and there just seems to be no way to get on top, you might want to think a little closer about like stepping into your fears, and making a move that is very, very difficult. Let's face it, all these women say the same thing. It was extremely difficult and it took years. However, you're going to also realize, as these women said, freedom. They all speak about freedom. And looking back, they all said, I wish I would have done it sooner. And they're all extremely happy on the other side. So again, I hope this helped. I would really appreciate it if you could let me know if you would like more of these interviews, and I'll see if I can arrange that for you. Until then, have a great week. Bye-bye. Thanks once again for joining me on another great episode of I Think I Can podcast. If you liked it, please subscribe below so you don't miss out on any future episodes. And until next week, treat each day like it was your last, because each new day is a privilege that we shan't take for granted. Cheers and have a great week. Bye-bye.